Welcome to the December edition of Ask the Athletic Director. Happy holidays. I'm Andy MacWilliams, and with us is Xavier AD Greg Christopher. And Greg, a lot of questions coming your way and my way about the Big East tournament, which will be in March at Madison Square Garden, the Mecca, right near Times Square. I mean, you know, the heartbeat of America, whatever. How do people get a hold of tickets, and what's the procedure to get access to those?
It's going to be an exciting time for Xavier and really all the schools in the Big East, and ultimately each school in the Big East has 750 tickets to get rid of.
That's all session?
All session tickets, so we already have the seats, and we've had several hundred of those tickets have already been sold to Xavier fans, but we need a great representation of Xavier fans in New York City. So I would encourage everybody to make their plans for the middle of March to be at Madison Square Garden. I know from my time on the East Coast, I attended a couple of Big East tournaments, and it is a fantastic experience. You're right. For the basketball junkies, it's a great 3 or 4 days. And the website, the GoXavier.com's got all the details, and whether it's the events, the receptions, and obviously the tickets, the team hotels. But the bottom line is we need Xavier fans in the stands at Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden has undergone a major refurbishing. In fact, I'm a big hockey fan. I love the NHL. The New York Rangers spent their first 9 games on the road as they finished off the reconstruction at Madison Square Garden. So it should be in good shape and ready to rock.
Well, the number they throw around is $1 billion, right?
Yep.
Something close to it as far as what they spent. So it better be good. But it is a magical arena, to use the phrase you used earlier, and it's a great place for our fans who haven't experienced it before. And obviously, anytime you can go to New York, it's a great trip.
We are fast approaching the Crosstown Classic. Xavier and UC playing for the 2nd year in a row down at the US Bank Arena. Are negotiations going on to continue the series, because this technically is the last game, I guess, in the current contract? Where do they stand, and where is the game going to go?
It is technically the last game of the contract. I've spoken with Whit a couple of times. Father Graham's spoken with Dr. Ono. The agreement, we basically have said, let's get through the game, and then we'll come back likely in 2014 in January, February, and talk through where it's going to go long term. But yeah, absolutely, this is a series that should continue. I see no reason that it won't. The discussion is, just centers on, is it going to go back to being home and home and on campus, or is it going to stay at a neutral site? I've been very clear, very public that I would hope that it gets back to the home and home, but I'm not the only person that's got a vote in that. So we'll see where it winds up, but this is a huge game, and I know it's emotional for some of our fans about going to US Bank Arena, and we don't need to get into all those reasons, and I get some of the frustration behind it, but nevertheless, this is a big game for our team, and we need to win it, and in order to win it, we need the best home court advantage that we can. So I would hope our fans might tuck that frustration aside for a day and come down to US Bank later this month and cheer the team on.
There are a lot of different aspects to a college basketball season. Obviously, there's the NCAA tournament, there's the regular season in your conference, there's conference tournament time, but there's exempt tournament time also, with special tournaments popping up all over the country, Puerto Rico, Hawaii. What is the rationale, the pecking order for getting into these exempt tournaments? Xavier, for example, this year is in the Battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas. How do you decide where to go, and how do you get invited, that type of thing?
That could be a half-hour conversation in its own right, Andy. I'll try to summarize it, but it is a great question that we get asked a fair amount. Xavier's had a history of success, tradition of success, strong brand name. We're fortunate that we are on that invitation list, so to speak, that you mentioned, and you do need to be invited to them. ESPN owns a handful of them, so they're kind of made for TV events, much the way ESPN owns about, I think, 8 bowl games now. So ESPN's in the business. There's a handful of independent companies. Fox is going to be getting into the business. They've said they're going to create an exempt tournament or two now that they're heavier into basketball, so we'll see where that goes. But Mario does a lot of the scheduling, and we simply try to rotate around to the various sites. He's got us scheduled out, I think, for the next 4 to 5 years. We're booked for these. from a purely basketball standpoint, the clear advantages are you get 3 games that count as 1, so you like that. You're getting to play what I would call some of the stronger teams, so it helps on the RPI side. And for some of those really elite teams, it may be your only chance to get them, because for better or for worse, some of those top 5 programs every year, they're not going to do home and homes with us. And we've tried, and we've called, and they keep saying no. So this is our shot to get maybe a top 5 program on a neutral court.
So Duke and Kansas and Michigan State, those guys are never going to come out of their home layers to play almost anybody else.
The first 2, I'll agree with you. I mean, Izzo's a guy that has proven he'll leave East Lansing, and he's pretty secure with where he stands. But there are a couple of those schools that, including one in this state, that simply won't leave their building.
That's Ohio Dominican?
You've got part of it right.
The NCAA has published their latest graduation rates, and Xavier's always at the top of the class. Actually, they're at the head of the class in the Big East and doing very well overall in Division I and in the NCAA.
You know, it doesn't get enough attention, Andy, but let's face it, that's why we're here. And
you're in the education business.
We're in the education business, and sometimes we all need to be reminded of that. But it might be probably the strongest area of the department as a whole, frankly, the academic part of the house. And Kim and her staff do a fantastic job. But you're right. I was only saying this in half jest when Val Ackerman was visiting the campus, but you know, in my opinion, that's our first Big East banner. You know, we won a Big East championship of sorts for academics, and Val said we can hang the banner wherever we want. So, but yeah, very proud of what our student athletes do. It's hats off not only to the faculty, but to our coaches who bring in a great group of kids.
I think 91 consecutive Xavier men's basketball seniors have graduated, and that includes 2 on the current team, Isaiah Fillmore and Eric Stenger. And what can you do as AD to perpetuate that long line?
Don't break the streak.
That wouldn't be good.
That's a list that nobody wants to break at this point. But again, you know, while I may be one piece of recruiting sometimes with some of the families, the fact is, you know, the credit goes to the coaches. There is probably no more intense relationship that a student athlete's going to have in his or her 4 or 5 years than with that head coach and the assistants. And again, the credit that the coaches get, they're on the front lines with the student athletes, making sure they achieve their highest goals, both athletically and academically. That's where the credit goes.
We're recording this prior to Thanksgiving and Xavier's trip to Atlantis, but now officially 4 games into the men's basketball season. Your early takes on what you've seen on the floor with Chris Mack's team?
You know, I don't have the perspective of last year like all of our fans or any previous year, but the one thing that I hear Chris saying over and over is, you know, number one, this is such a different team than last year, and the depth, and you're seeing that play out already. But the fact is that we've got all W's speaks highly, including a nice win over Tennessee. We're going to get tested in Atlantis, and obviously the tests keep growing as we head toward December 31. So they're off to a positive start, and you know, looking forward to see what we can do down in the Bahamas.
Moving ahead after Atlantis, there's a non-conference game that you may have underscored on your personal schedule, Bowling Green, your old school. Are you going to wear one of those split outfits with Xavier colors on one side and BG on the other, or how do you handle that one?
Great people up I-75 in Bowling Green, and it is a special place, but there is no split alliance. I know where my paycheck comes from, so no worries about that. And you know, that one will have a little personal flair to it. Kind of a quirky way I don't know if this is completely legal, but the way the contract flowed, it was in process before I ever left Bowling Green, and then got finalized when I was here at Xavier. So
you signed it on both ends?
My name is on both sides of the contract.
I guess it's valid.
Yeah, they're planning on showing up, and we're planning on paying them, and we're also planning on beating them.
Well, we appreciate it. Another month in the books here, and the holiday season, and before you know it, it'll be December 31st, and that 5 games back to back on Fox Sports 1, starting off with Xavier and St. John's on New Year's Eve.
We kick it all off, 12 noon. We've got the A-team here broadcast-wise, and the first Big East game in the books. So that should be a fun day, and I know Brian Hicks on the marketing side has a lot of things planned for that day. So we're going to be encouraging fans to make sure they're in their seats early for that day. So it'll be great to have Steve Lavin and the Johnnies in the house and pick up our first Big East W.
All right, thanks for joining us
Andy.
in December, and we'll see you on the flip side in 2014 with the next edition of Ask the Athletic Director.